So thank you everyone for being a part of this meeting. So it's time for a very important session, that is edutainment. It's my pleasure to introduce the speaker of today's edutainment program, DTM Malini Hebbar. She is the HOD of head of the department and associate professor of English at St. Agnes College. Toastmasters, hold your seats as I read out to you all her accomplishments. She has a doctorate in English, a Triple DTM. She has served as president, VP Education twice, a VP PR thrice, treasurer, and a sergeant at arms. At district level, she has served as an area director, division director, district administration manager, is a district evaluation champion, the chartered president of Winners Club. She has been a resource person in many training programs. I couldn't put all the training programs here. I think I need a day long to tell it to you all. She is a co-author of a textbook published by Cambridge Press. I started a YouTube channel to popularize the concept of wealth from waste in cooking. I do follow it and I do cook it as well. She is a past district chairman of Inner Wheel and International Service Organization of Ladies. It's just a gist of her achievements. Toastmasters, please help me welcome our gorgeous DTM Malini Hebbar. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Fiona. First of all, let me congratulate you on a very well-conducted meeting along with the TMOD. You can pat yourself on your back because when I looked at the agenda and when I saw that my session would be at 7:05, I thought, okay, 7:05, which would mean 7:35. That's how I looked at your agenda, but you have proved me wrong. Thank you for that. Thank you for the introduction, but thank you for the introduction you gave at the beginning. You said we have an educational program by DTM Malini, and then immediately you moved over to world-class educational sessions. So it was as though you were elevating me to the position of world-class educationist. So you didn't mean to do that, but it sounded like that. So I remain grateful to you. But your portmanteau word, edutainment, is quite challenging because you want the educationists to educate and also entertain. So you have that edutainment. Probably your focus is right because they say that you learn the best when you laugh. So when you're entertained, you find it easy to be educated, but it's a double challenge for the educationist. My session today is going to be a very, very simple one, not complicated at all. And it is not even a session, it is actually a kind of sharing that I do with all of you. So since I've used the word sharing, let me also do the screen sharing. So let me come to the idea of evaluation. All right. Now, as I have already told you, it's going to be a very simple presentation. Now, every time when we talk about evaluation, we talk about what is right and what is wrong. But there are many areas where things are right and wrong at the same time. They are right in their intent, but because of a wrong implementation of an idea, they go wrong. And that is going to be my focus in the time that is allotted to me, 15 minutes of your time that you have given me. And the off-asked questions are about preparation and the excerpts from the speech and whether an evaluation can have the elements, the characteristics of a speech. So I'm going to take these three ideas and I'm going to share with you my ideas of how even a right thing can go wrong and how to improve upon something that is already right. Now, the first question is about preparation. An oft-asked question is whether we need to prepare ourselves when we are evaluators. Now, I'm not taking it at the club level. At the club level, yes, you will have to know what is the speech plan, etc., etc. But I know that the focus is always on a contest. So my presentation will have the idea of how to go about an evaluation contest. Now, when it comes to the question of preparation, yes, you can be prepared, but what is it that you can be prepared with, I will take a little later. But when you go there and sit as a contestant in an evaluation contest, do you have to be prepared? As I have said, yes, but to be taken up later. But when you sit and listen to a speaker, I would like to take the Latin phrase which says tabula rasa. Now, that is why I have put this image. Tabula rasa means an empty slate. It has the idea of, all of us coming into this existence without any mental preoccupations, and we get all our perceptions through our experiences. But I am equating it with your role as an evaluator. And when you sit and listen to a speaker, I would advise you, and this is what I have tried as an evaluator, just to sit with a blank slate for your mind, tabula rasa, and just listen to the speaker. Just listen to the speaker and take those impressions. Be receptive of the impressions that you get when you sit and listen to a speaker. I have something funny to share with you. I'm not going to talk about origami, no, but then you see, I have seen many evaluators trying out different patterns with their sheet. I'm not joking. I've literally seen many of them folding the sheet in different manners so that they have different points put in different parts of the sheet. Now, I have nothing to say about it. It is your comfort level. However you want to fold your sheet, it is left to you. But all that I do, and I think it would be advisable for everyone to do it, to have two clear-cut parts. That is, all those things that impress you, that you like about the speech will come on one part of your sheet, and all those things which you feel have some kind of problem, or all those things that need to be improved upon in one or the other manner could go to the other part of your speech. So if you sit with a blank mind, ready to receive all ideas and put down those ideas in two parts, later on, when you get that 5 minutes, that's the minimum, you may get slightly more than that depending upon the order of your evaluation. But then during that particular time, this will help you, because you will know what good things that you want to speak about and what are the things that you would have as suggestions and recommendations. Now, let me go more into the preparation part of it. Now, I said I would take the idea of preparation a little later. Yes, you can prepare yourselves with some analogies, words and phrases, and transitional markers. But again, as I said, these right things can go terribly wrong if you don't take care. For example, I have come across different analogies. As I've already said, analogies are good because one good analogy is worth 3 hours discussion. That is what we say. But then there are risks that we run when it comes to the question of analogies. Now, for example, a couple of times I have heard speakers, evaluators rather, use the analogy of chocolates. They talk about the outer layer and the inner layer, and dark chocolate, light chocolate, and they extend the comparison to the speech delivered by the speaker. Well, fine, no problem. It can be interesting. But I remember in our own area contest, this particular problem occurred when one particular evaluator came up with the analogy of the chocolate, and soon after that, another evaluator came up exactly with the same analogy. Now, the problem that I'm trying to point out here is that this particular analogy used by the speaker or the evaluator was not an original analogy. Somewhere, after Googling, the evaluator would have come across this particular analogy and would have found it interesting. Now, there is nothing wrong in that, but then you always run the risk of repetition. The next evaluator spoke in all his or her glory, without knowing that an evaluator just before this particular evaluator had used exactly the same analogy. I have come across analogies comparing the speech to masala dosa. I have come across analogies comparing speech to different types of mangoes, juicy as mundappa, as tangy as neelam, and things like that. Now you see, as I've said, the first risk is of repetition. The second risk, which is more important, is of sounding slightly silly. Now, when I say silly, I know that the word silly itself is subjective. What I find to be silly, you may not find it to be silly. But then you can overcome this problem of the fear of sounding silly by making your analogies topical. For example, now when I won the evaluation contest, I had an analogy where I compared the speaker's speech to the serenity of the Mohiniyattam dancer, to the vigor of the Kalaripattu fighter, things like that, because that was in Kerala. Now, when you make your analogy topical, the audience is more interested in the analogy and is more willing to accept that particular analogy. So, analogies are fine. You can use them. You can be prepared. But the question is whether you can use your power of imagination and make your analogies your own unique, original analogies. Now, when it comes to words and phrases, it's very easy to be prepared with certain words and phrases because we have a Thesaurus. You can go to that and you can have substitutes. Now, this I say because I have come across umpteen number of evaluators, when they have to sum up, they come up with the phrase, all in all, the speech was a great speech. Now, we would have heard it any number of times. And the minute they say, all in all, I feel it's a cliche. First time somebody says, all in all, it might sound interesting. But now we have abused this particular phrase so many times that it is better not to use it. That is why I have put a list of phrases which can be used instead of saying all in all, in its entirety, on the whole, in its overall impact. All these words can be tried, and you need only one phrase. You don't need too many phrases, and it won't be difficult for you to remember one phrase when it comes to the question of summation. Now, on the other side of my screen, I have put other words because of one more cliche, one more superlative, which has now become a cliche. And every time evaluators use this unnecessarily because they say the speech was awesome. Now, awesome is a superlative. If the speech was awesome, where do you stand the chance at all of offering suggestions for improvement or recommendations? Whereas, if you mellow down your tone and your word and you use other words, it was a remarkable speech. A remarkable speech is remarkable, but it might still give you the scope to talk about areas of improvement. That is why I would say don't use superlatives, because superlatives do not give you the chance to offer anything as suggestions and recommendations for improvement. Now, by way of preparation, I always feel that we can keep in mind the power of three. Now, you see, for centuries, people have been using this as a powerful tool of speech, of vocabulary. That is why I have put a few examples that speak about the power of three. We can easily be prepared with the power of three. But again, now supposing I keep these three words ready. Let me say, I say, you spoke with conviction, compassion, and compulsion. I keep those three words ready. And I say that you spoke with conviction, compassion, and compulsion. If I stop there, my preparation is of no significance at all, because it will come out to the audience as a pre-rehearsed phrase. Whereas if I qualify it further, if I say, you spoke with compassion for women who have been treated as underdogs, You spoke with conviction when you spoke about the ways in which their state can improve, and you had the compulsion of a speaker who was trying to persuade the audience. Now, if you connect it to the speech, your preparation will go with what is spontaneous, and this is the best combination that you can think of. You are prepared to some extent, but not to the full extent. If you are prepared to the full extent, the evaluation will lose its effectiveness and will fall flat. Now, transition is very important. Now, I have seen that some evaluators have this problem. They speak about one positive point and immediately they say, but. Another positive point, yet. One more positive point, nevertheless. So one positive point coupled with one negative point. So much so that at the end of the evaluation, you do not really know whether you have any strength at all as a speaker. That is why it is important that you segregate your speech into different sections. If you're talking about positive points, talk about positive points and then come to the areas of improvement and make it very clear with the transition that you are moving on from the positives to the areas of improvement. If you don't do that, it comes in a very garbled manner and the speaker will not be convinced by your evaluation. Now, of course, when it comes to transition, you can keep things ready. Now, I remember using this particular transitional phrase. Of course, we can't use it every time, but I'm just giving it as an example that I said, however, there is no ivory without a crack. So from that, I moved on to my areas of recommendation or suggestions. Now, sometimes what happens is we talk about something as the strength, and when it comes to recommendations, the same point we take as areas for improvement. Now, this is self-contradiction, but let me tell you that there is a reason for the evaluator to do that. For example, I might have appreciated the speaker's body language, but when it comes to suggestions, I may have under body language itself one point as my recommendation. But if I don't make it clear, if I don't say that, having said that you have a powerful way of expressing yourself through your body language, let me also add that. Now, I must make it very clear that I remember having praised the body language of the speaker, but after having done that, I still have a recommendation to make in that particular area. If you do not do that, it sounds as though the evaluator is confused over what he or she wants to say. A transition is very important, so do keep one transitional phrase, one transitional marker, and one way of moving from one part to the other part ready, and that would help you. Now, one of the oft-asked questions is about taking excerpts from the speech. Now, again here, if you just take an excerpt from the speech and stop at that, it would be purposeless. For example, if I say, you described the girl in blue, and you also described that her eyelids had the blue mascara. If I go on like that, it is meaningless. But if I say, why are you describing the girl in blue with blue mascara? You showed your power of description, your power of observation. Then taking excerpts from the speech would make some sense. Otherwise, it would be unnecessarily going back to the speech. Now, I have also seen some evaluators, when they take excerpts from the speech, they imitate the speaker. Now, you see, maybe when they imitate, they think that they are doing it in a complimentary manner. Okay, but I don't think it would come out in the same manner to the speaker. So I feel even if you are taking excerpts from the speech, let's reproduce it in our own manner. It is not necessary to imitate the speaker because of the fear that it might amount to mimicking the speaker. Now let me come to the third point, and that's my last point. Amit, I do not know whether your timer is still active, but I know that I have taken probably 7 to 10 minutes. I do not know. You can show me the flag. But I have come to the third point, that is an oft-asked question again, whether an evaluation should be like a speech. Now, there are different opinions with regard to this. That is, whether an evaluator should try to have all the elements that a speaker would try to have in his or her speech. Now, my answer to this is, it has to be effective and it has to be like a speech. What prevents us from making an evaluation as effective as a speech? Now, there is one criticism which says that when you try to evaluate a speaker in that manner, it is as though you're trying to impress. It is not that you're trying to express what you want to say. I beg to differ with this particular observation. I feel that we can try to be effective, but as Zandon, the CEO of Quantified Communication says, we need to bring in what is called vitals. Now, Mehrabian model is well known to all of us, where he talks about the non-verbals, and he says that words contribute only to 7% of the effectiveness of the speech. But then the CEO of Quantified Communications, Noah Zandon, has come up with this fourth V. He calls it the fourth V. He says vitals. Now, he describes this vitals as authentic speakers. Just as we expect authenticity from speakers, we should also make sure that we as evaluators are authentic. And if we do that, we can have our own justification for the effective manner in which we try and present our evaluation. Because even as we try to be effective, who stops us from being authentic, from saying what has come to our mind and our heart while sitting and listening to a speech? So my answer to the question of whether an evaluation ought to be like a speech is a strong yes, because if people have to sit up and listen to you, you must incorporate the elements of the speech, of a speech. Now, he also talks about the vocal variety, and he says that even 10% increase in the vocal variety can make a lot of difference. That is why I repeat myself that we ought to be like speakers when we are evaluators. Now, Amit, I do not know what is the time I have taken, but if there is time for a quick question answer, I would take a few questions. But if you say it is time for us to wind up, I don't mind. I'll be happy to wind up. Now, this is what I look at. These are purely my subjective reflections on evaluation, not at all from the studied framework of Toastmasters evaluation. This is what I say from my experience as a speaker and from my experience as an evaluator. And before I wind up, just one thing: suggestions for improvement are very important, but that's the touchy area. The minute we come to suggestions, recommendations, the speaker is wary of what the evaluator is going to say. So I have found one tool to be useful there, that is taking a slightly humorous tone, a light tone when it comes to suggestions and recommendations, instead of posing ourselves as, Socrates and Solomon. If we take a slightly lighter vein and talk about suggestions and recommendations, the speaker's willingness to accept would be there, because after all, the evaluation that we give must make the speaker attempt speaking once again and not leave Toastmasters and go home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DTM Malini ma'am. I think we can take 5 more minutes for the question answers, and the members and the guests who are there online can ask questions to DTM Malini ma'am. The floor is open for questions. Yes.
Okay, it is 7:26. I think it is.
Can I ask if no one is asking?
Yes.
Doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Yes. Malini, I would like to know as to when you give suggestions for improvement, what is the kind of phrase that you would like to use? Because sometimes some phrases can be a bit touchy, where some phrases like could you or would you consider? I mean, what's your idea? What kind of phrases?
Yes. Now, you're not talking about transitional markers, but you're talking about the phrases that you would like the evaluator to take instead of saying you must or you should. Is that
Yes,
right, doctor?
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. I think you have answered the question yourself, because when you say you could consider the option of, it would be nice if you considered the option of, because when we were discussing Will and Will have been working and Will have worked with Daryl, you had raised this question. Actually, would is not indicative of tense at all. Would is a more polite way of speaking. Would you please show me the picture? Instead of saying, will you show me the picture? Could you? Would you? So yes, I think it should become a part of our vocabulary. The problem with this is that we are not native speakers of English. So, it takes time for us to make use of such phrases. That is why now in the academic setup, they give a lot of importance for dialogue writing, so that we train our students to come up with a more polite way of asking questions. So even when it comes to recommendations, there would always be a more polite way of saying things, definitely. And we always you attitude, how it would come to the other person if I were to be in the shoes of the other person. So if we have that you attitude, and also when we say you were very soft, instead of that, if we could say that I found it difficult to get the words clearly, you are taking the onus on yourself. You're not putting the burden on the speaker. You're taking it for some reason. I was not able to get it. But if I say you were very soft, you were not audible, I'm putting the blame squarely on the speaker. So it could be the truth, but then in Kannada we say ಅಪ್ರಿಯವಾದ ಸುಳ್ಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳುವ ಬದಲು ಪ್ರಿಯವಾದ ಸತ್ಯವನ್ನು ಹೇಳುವುದು ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು. So it's always better to come up with pleasant lies than unpleasant truths.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking a question.
Thank you so much,
Ma'am, I have one question. Yes, ma'am. And I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of people here. What if there is a speech where there is nothing positive to say?
Okay.
At all. The challenge is when you get a speaker, and this has happened to I'm sure many of us many a time, and there's nothing positive to say. Do you recommend lie and lie some more?
Preetham, as I've said, you cannot demolish a speaker completely. You have your right to give recommendations when you come to the part of recommendations. But if you are not sympathetic but empathetic, you would be able to find something or the other to say about even the sheer aspect of the speaker standing there and speaking for 5 to 7 minutes. Even the very idea that the speaker has joined Toastmasters to improve himself or herself. Why don't we talk about that? We can say that we could see that you were slightly nervous, but we appreciate the idea that you have joined Toastmasters to improve yourself. And I know that that improvement is not far away. With the kind of conviction that you have to improve yourself, with the kind of interest you have, one day you will surely be a good speaker. Don't make that one day sound as though it is far in the future.
Yes,
but I'm sure that if we have what we call empathy, and if we have the habit of putting ourselves in the shoes of the other person, okay, do unto others what you want others to do unto you, we will definitely have things to say. But it doesn't mean that we must only lie. That is why we have the areas of recommendation, right? It is to ensure that we don't just whitewash. But when it comes to recommendations, I remember Deepak Justin saying don't whitewash, but don't blackwash either. This is what he said. You know, when he took a session on evaluation, which I attended, and this is what he said, our champion speaker. It's not necessary to whitewash, but don't blackwash either. This is what he said. This is what we have to tell ourselves. We have absolutely no right to blackwash. And if we whitewash, okay, the audience may sit there and think, this one has not done justice to the evaluation. So what? We have not broken the spirit of a speaker. That is more important. We can never break the spirit of a speaker. And evaluation, according to me, is the only area where we are on a slippery slope. We have to be careful.
Yes, ma'am, I totally agree, ma'am. I totally agree. That's why I thought this would be a question that you should definitely answer, because it was not something that I wanted only. I felt everybody would benefit from knowing, because we would also be in the slippery slope once in a while. And you would really wonder how can you help a particular speaker without being, as you said, blackwashing them, but definitely not breaking their spirit. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
I remember, you know, one boy who had the sheet in his hand and couldn't even read from the sheet. So when I had to evaluate, I offered to mentor him. I said, probably you need somebody's help and I'm prepared to help you. So I offer to mentor that person. You know, there are various things that we can do.
Hi, Amit, can I ask one question? Amita here.
Yes, Amita.
Yeah, thank you. Malini ma'am, now my question is just opposite of Preetham's. While Preetham said sometimes the speech is not good, nothing, I mean, how do you say positive? But sometimes speech is so good, we don't get anything to recommend. How do we handle that?
Now I feel the problem is in a contest, not in a club level evaluation, because in a club level evaluation, if you feel that someone has done remarkably well, I think you can admit to that and you can congratulate the speaker. But what happens in a contest is that you have marks for that recommendation. So you desperately try to say something, and that is why even the organizers of contests see to it that it's not a seasoned speaker who comes as the demo speaker. Very often they ask not a novice, but somebody who might not have reached a very high level of speaking to be the demo speaker. But let's say in the contest also it happens that the speaker comes out with an exceptionally good speech. I have used it once in the past. I have said that the recommendation that I give to you is to see that there are a few flaws at least in your speech so that we don't score a 0 in the area of recommendation. So I said it humorously. But then I strongly believe in that winning is not everything. Now, if we feel that we don't have anything concrete to say, instead of saying, I didn't find enough voice modulation, instead of those lies, I think we can avoid, because those lies will make it very clear even to the judges that we are lying just because we want to score something in that category of recommendation. So let's keep our mind open, as I said, and I'm sure that however good a speaker is, there might be a few slips, okay? May not be noticeable, easily noticeable, but if we are discerning listeners, there would always be some scope for improvement. We must try and find that. I don't have any other answer. I don't have a miraculous possibility for this. We'll have to just try out and see whether we come up with if others have some other better answers, you can also come up with your answers.
Thank you, ma'am.
Amit had to say yes to you, his namesake after all, you see.
Any more questions?
I have one.
Yes, please.
Hi, Malini ma'am. Hi, Amit. Sorry, I joined a little late. Malini ma'am, I'm glad I got to hear you. And since you were mentioning about contest, during a contest, there are some evaluators who use a paper who don't use a paper. So what do you think is the ideal way? I mean, does it actually affect? Because I know that we are saying as a speech, when you mentioned that evaluation is also a speech. So using a paper, what is your take on it?
Okay. Now, there is one idea which was prevalent a few years ago, which is not prevalent anymore. That is, earlier, if people went without a sheet to evaluate, there was this kind of opinion that he or she was trying to show off without taking the sheet, that he or she can speak even without referring to the sheet. So there was this idea earlier, but now it is not there, because there is more and more awareness that an evaluation can be as effective and should be as effective as a speech. Now, if you can avoid taking a sheet, avoid. But if you are afraid that you would forget, then take it. Because even in a speech, we do use cue cards. So it's not, there is no bar on using a sheet. But having said this, I feel the impact that we have on our listeners, on our audience would be more if we did not take recourse to the sheet of paper. Now that is why I find it a wrong method when I look at the contestants, my fellow contestants or contestants when I was the organizer. You see, they put down points and in that 5 minutes, they start writing furiously. Now, if you start writing furiously, then you will try to be word perfect and then you find it very difficult to remember what you have put down. What I feel is that you have those points that you have put down already, which should serve for mind mapping. You should have those points, and in that time that is allotted to you to sit and think about the evaluation, you must only think of what are the points that I want to say and what will be my structure, and from which point do I move on to which point. That should be the kind of mind mapping that you do in the time that is allotted for preparation, not furiously writing down, because if you write down, then you have to read it out. You will be compelled to read it out. I never do that. Even when it is in the club, I put down points, and once I put down points, I start recollecting the points that I put down. And I feel that if I feel that there was a good point that I put down, which I'm not able to recollect, then I look at my sheet. Then I remember, okay, then I'm moving on from this point to this point. That's how I prepare myself for the evaluation. This is again a totally subjective answer. It works for me. I do not know whether it works for others, but I feel you should employ the skill of mind mapping after you have put down points.
Thank you, Malini ma'am. Thank you for this idea.
Thank you so much, Divya. Any more questions? Okay, Fiona, I think it's time to wrap up. It's over to you.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Malini ma'am, for this informative session. It was sweet and best, like dark chocolate. Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for accepting our invitation and being a part of this meeting. How can we end a meeting without listening to our club group director, Savita Salyan? Ma'am, can you please address everyone for a minute, please? Cecilia, 1 second.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. Nowadays, I've been missing my club meetings and I have not attended. So it was wonderful being here and being with all of you all. And I joined in late. That is when Malini ma'am, before a few minutes before Malini ma'am's session. And I was very happy that I could get the education session. I have attended her evaluation sessions many times, but every time it's a learning. And every time she comes up with something innovative and different, and the way she presents, it's so beautiful. So I've written the chat also. It's like the more I hear, it's like Dil Mange more, and I want it more. So thank you, Malini ma'am, for that wonderful session. And thank you, Fiona, for inviting me. And it was a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Can we have our division director, Toastmaster, DTM Molly Chowdhury speak, address the audience for a minute? Molly,
Okay.
ma'am.
Hi, good evening, everyone. How many of you are feeling hungry and want to leave? I'll make it very short. Excellent session, Inspiron Toastmasters, though I missed the first part of it. It's like post 6 o'clock, you're jumping from one Zoom meeting to another. But I would listen to Malini's session, and every time I sit in Malini's session, I'm learning actually. Every time it's been a learning session for me, way back from college days. So it's 35 years of learning from Malini, and I still love to learn from her. This is something I've still not mastered, how to give evaluations. So at every session, I'm learning. Thank you, Malini, for that. And keep giving us more sessions, because every session of yours is innovative. There's something new that you bring to the session. Very creative and innovative. So thank you so much. And for Inspiron Toastmasters, was a beautiful meeting. I think it was a 3-club meeting, right? You all had because I saw Nikita from Manipal Udpi, and I can see Daryl from Infosys.
They're all part of our club now.
Yeah, they are Inspironians now.
Okay. So
Amit?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, Molly, just complete your.
Yeah, so it was a lovely meeting. Thank you so much. And I hope whenever we have online meetings, I'll be able to just drop by. Thank you.
Amit, I just want half a second to thank DTM Veera Katpitiya. I think it was DTM Veera Katpitiya, a training coordinator, who asked Fiona to apply as at the district level as the educationist. So you have set the ball rolling for my speaker citation award. So this is my first session. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And thank you, DTM Veera Katpitiya, for making it possible. Thank you very much for that. And thank you all of you who have written good words on the chat box. So I was busy reading that. So Molly, I go to have my dinner a happier woman than what I was when I came and sat for the meeting.
Thank you so much, Malini ma'am.
Thank you, Malini ma'am. Thank you, Malini ma'am. So thank you everyone for spending a valuable time with us, and a special thanks to Toastmaster Daryl, we call him Inspironian, for taking up role, and Toastmaster Nikita for, again, even she's been attending our meetings continuously. Thank you, Toastmaster Nikita, for being a part of this program. A special thanks to my board members, Toastmaster Amit, Toastmaster Royal, Toastmaster Ishwar, Zina, Toastmaster Jeevan. Everyone is very active, and you always make me very happy. You complete all your work and task on time. So thanks to you all. You are the main reason that this meeting has been very successful. And thank you each and every one present here, all the presidents and VP Education and all the members of Toastmasters. Thank you for being a part of a meeting and making it a more memorable one for us. Now, feedback is very important for our growth. So the floor is open for feedback. But since we have short of time, we will conduct a feedback session for just 5 minutes. Each person can take up on 30 seconds to give us feedback.
Fiona, I think I see a few veterans. I think it would be great if you asked people like Urmila ma'am, Paul sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Rather than all of us, I believe that they have written it for a long time. I think we can start with Urmila ma'am and Paul sir. After that, simultaneously, I think that would be great enough feedback. Dr. CK is also there. I think this triumvirate will help. These 3 people, you get feedback, Fiona, and you're set. And the rest of us can just move after that. What do you say?
Yeah, thank you, Pritham ma'am. Thank you very much. Ma'am, Urmila ma'am is here on screen.
I'm sorry, all our members, Toastmasters. I lost connectivity and I'm still crying over it because I always enjoy Malini's educational session, and I had to miss the main session. So I'm not in a position to say anything really, except I hope the session was recorded that I may go back and listen to it. But Malini, as always, I saw the question time session, and I always wonder how original she can be and how she can pass on her learning to everybody else. I think this is what makes her a great resource person, and this is the trade-off. Winners members are now becoming resource persons and helping other clubs to grow and learn. I think this is a great trade-off, as I said. Thank you.
Urmila ma'am, can we have Dr. C.K. Ballal here to address the audience?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I've shown that I fully enjoyed the session. I've been with you for most of the program. Not only was your meeting very enjoyable, but I think I got an opportunity to ask all that I wanted to ask. You know, it's like now or never kind of thing, but I'm sure with Malini, it's never now or never, because I meet her in MTM, as she comes as a guest. I meet her regularly at the Advanced Toastmasters. So I think she'll always be available. The essence of a teacher and essence of a resource person is to give. The more you ask for it, the more you get. And that is Malini's quality, and she's never shirked from that. And I am a benefactor of that, like all of you, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Hats off to you for organizing something like that. And hats off to Malini too, for giving her the best of the best. And I'm sure the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we have Toastmaster Paul Varghese here. Hello, sir. Can you please address the audience?
It's a great pleasure attending this meeting. Seeing Malini's name on the billboard was the turning point. I decided I should not miss this section, because there are a profusion of Toastmasters meetings on Zoom platform. But this is one meeting I decided not to miss, and I don't regret having logged in. Of course, I logged in a little late. Your GE session was wonderful. You got a real vibrant club going, and I wish you all the best. Of course, I cannot agree with DTM Malini about scribbling the notes and coming to do the evaluation. I don't scribble notes, or I don't bring the notes because I can't read what I scribbled. So I like to recollect, and I have to give the evaluation. And then also, one of the points that really made me smile is Pritham asked, what about a speaker about whom you can't say anything positive? Actually, there is no such speaker, Pritham, about whom nothing positive can be told. The work of the evaluator is to search and find something positive that the evaluator can present to the audience, and that will make that speaker's day. So evaluation is not merely about being analytical, also being encouraging. That is the foundation and bulwark of the Toastmasters movement. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to listen to a great speaker, communicator like Malini Hebbar once more. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Urmila, Dr. CK, and Toastmaster Paul Varghese. I took the chance again to speak, because if I don't thank three of you stalwarts of Mangalore, not only of Toastmasters, but the whole of Mangalore, I'll be failing in my duty. Your presence itself has been very inspiring and motivating for me. Thank you very much.
And Amit, before you close, a disclaimer. It was just a question. It was not what I think. I was just helping out Malini ma'am, and I want that to be noted, please. Thank you very much. It's like, before the movie, I'm also going to come with a disclaimer anymore.
Thank you, Pritham ma'am. That was really a good question. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you everyone. I think let's adjourn the meeting. Let's call it a day.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Fiona. Wonderful meeting.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Malini ma'am. That
Thank
was
you, everybody.
you,
Good
all.
night. Be safe.
entertaining session.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Amit?
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just click my own photo as I'm speaking.